On this Monday. Give time for a few people to roll on in here. Let's get it going. I was going to do the introduction to Okta while people roll in. Let's see. Hopefully, everybody's having a good month. What's up, Justin? How you doing, man? Glad you could join me. Just talking about Okta. Little introduction to Okta where everybody's rolling in. They're the big dog in the industry, but obviously they were having some few issues. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. I'm dragging. Peace. Appreciate you, computer geek. Well, you know how we do it. If you got any questions, while we let a few more people file in, just drop them in the chat. Tech, cybersecurity, GRC, red team, blue team, purple team, all the teams. Just drop them in the chat and we'll get to them. If I don't know them, I'll send you to somebody. So, what's up, Caramel Drip? How are you doing? About to get started. Once again, it's just talking about Okta at a high level. They definitely I would say one of the top cybersecurity people. So again, we're gonna drill in and see what happened, do a rack, root access calls, and see if we're gonna learn some stuff, seeing where they actually went wrong, which is kind of crazy since they're supposed to be the big dog. See, I paused it real second. Let me get that rolling while I work on the other one. Again, if you got any cybersecurity questions, tech questions, just drop them in the box. There's a lot of big companies that are getting hacked that I thought would never have issues like that. So I guess just kind of surprising. Well, I guess not anymore. So because it's happening so much. Let's see. Let's play that while people coming in. Give it a little sound.
News alert on Okta. Steve Kovac is back with those details. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, shares of Okta down 11.5% now after disclosing a hack of its customer support system, saying the hackers were able to view files uploaded by customers, but also noting this is different than the customer-facing service of Okta that companies tend to use, and that has not been hacked. But again, saying they've notified all customers affected by this. Very few details in this announcement about specifics of the files uploaded and what kind of data was able to be viewed by the hackers. But you can see now falling even further down, better than almost 13% now, Scott.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving us that update to us. Steve Kovac, we'll see you a little bit with more stocks to watch.
That was 2 weeks ago. So now we found out a few more things about it. So let's I'm trying to figure out. Let's look at the financials real quick while everybody's rolling again. What's up, Ty? All right, man. Everybody gets like that. Been in my head lately, big bro. Just got to keep grinding, man. Things are going to get better. It's hard out here, though. You just got to keep on the grind, man. People make their luck. What's up, A317? So let's look at the financials from the hack real quick. Then we actually read about the hack. Once again, people rolling in. So when you talk about security hacks, right? Okta cybersecurity breach wipes out more than $2 billion in market cap aka the stock took a big hit. Let's read a couple paragraphs of that. Then we're going to actually hit the Okta from their website, and they actually go into much more detail. So then we'll, like I said, get into it. So Okta cybersecurity breach wipes out more than 2 billion. So that's why they want you to stay on top of the cybersecurity. That's why they have a nice budget. Okta shares continue to slump Monday, closing down more than 8% after the company disclosed that an unidentified hacking group had accessed client files through the support system. That lets you know, we talk about it all the time. What's your weakest link? For them, it was the support system, right? They probably didn't have the same security on their support system as their regular system, right? More than 2 billion in market cap has been wiped away since the company acknowledged the hack Friday. Once again, this is coming from October 23rd, a couple weeks ago. Okta makes identity management solution and is a high-profile target for hackers, which have penetrated Okta customers in a spat of material hacks. Shed more than 2 billion from market valuation since company disclosed the hack of its support system. The high-profile incident has its latest in a string of incidents that have been tied to Okta or its products, including spat on intrusion at the casinos that crippled Las Vegas hotel rooms. Shares slumped again 11%. An unidentified hacking group was able to access client files through the support system. Companies did not provide more information than that. Then it was one. So a lot of times, when you do support calls, I used to do them all the time when I was at Oracle DBA. You get these files. I think theirs was hard files, HR, which is just binary code of what's in there. A lot of times, you can have customer data in there, you can have your license keys in there. A lot of times, you have access keys to third-party stuff in there that you want them to do diagnostics on to figure out what's wrong or what happened. So in their support system, there was a lot of PII information in there, personally identified information. Shout out to Keep It Techie. Let's see what 8317 has. Seemed like every company you review, Mount Company uses use SolarWinds top dog. They survived. Octa up top two. Oh yeah, they're gonna survive. They're pretty transparent. If you lose, what was that? 10%, that's 2 billion. You got a lot of money, 8317. So yeah, they're gonna be on top of it. They seem to be transparent. They seem to got the big companies in there to help them out to figure out what happened. So they're not gonna disappear. To be honest, and this is not financial help or me being a financial analyst. A lot of times I buy on dips like this because a lot of people panic. They lost 2 billion, but 8317, they, like you said, if they come back and do what they're supposed to do, their stock price will bounce back. So they just got to get on top of it, and it's about money. They got infinite money, so they're gonna get the best people in there and start working on it. So let's read a little more. Octave is a lesser known name, but forms a critical part of cybersecurity systems. They identified management companies boast more than 18,000 customers. I guess I heard of them. I know a few clients that were actually using them. It's Zoom, Google, Workspace, ServiceNow, VMware. Okta said it had communicated to all its effective clients. In a separate post Friday, privately held identity management firm BeyondTrust said it had told Okta security teams about the suspicious activity. We're going to get to that. Actually, Okta didn't find it out. BeyondTrust found it out. They were using Okta for their stuff, and it came out. Okta did initially acknowledge the incident as a breach after BeyondTrust alerted them, despite what BeyondTrust describes as concern that there was a high likelihood of compromise within Okta support, that we were likely not the only customer impacted. So long story short, Okta didn't found it. BeyondTrust found it. A lot of times that's what happens when you out there working. Is a lot of times is your third party vendors will come up and be like, "Hey, we see something funny," because a lot of times they got more logging and telemetry than you do, right? And that's one thing we're just going to touch on too is if you got a SIM, what should you be logging? We're going to talk about in there how you're going to do it, right? Because if you don't have the logging, you can't trace. Shout out to BeyondTrust to figure out what's going on. Facts, Justin. Facts, man. I'm trying to get out there, man. Okta's intertwined. Oh yeah, they got 18,000 customers in there. Keep it taking you there in there. So let's actually read what the Okta said in there. We call them root access calls. And anytime a big company has, and shout out to Textual Chatter, he went over it this morning too. I think he kind of did more from a SOC perspective, incident response. I'm kind of doing more from a GRC perspective, blue team hardening perspective. So shout out to him. I thought he did an excellent job. So let's get on Active website and see what they have to say about it. Let's see. Make that a little bigger for the old people like me. Got their executive summary. And two, a lot of times is when you do a root access calls and remediation, even though it's for Okta, you need to go through your stack to see if that happened to you. Are you logging the right things to be able to figure this out? TTP, are you in your logs? Are you doing SOAR, security orchestration, where if you see this logging in there, this TTP, it will send an email to the security team, right, for this type of hack. So that's the kind of things you want to learn and implement into your business, especially when it's happening to a big company, right? So you want to learn from the big company. If you're small and mid-sized, do you have these safeguards and control? Are you logging? And two, the sad part about it, and I'm gonna get into it, is this how they got hacked, and we're gonna get it from Google. This is a simple check that I was doing since 2017. So for me, I think I think Octave was very negligent, and we're gonna get into that in more detail. Why I came up with that, why I thinking that, and here's my artifacts of why I believe that. But let's get into the root cause once again. Any questions? Tech, cybersecurity, careers wise, just drop them in the chat. We can answer them and pivot on back. PBO been doing this forever. So let's get on to it. David Bradbury, executive summary. We offer our apologies now. We're going to need some money to those affected customers, more broadly to all the customers that trust Octave as their identity provider. We're deeply committed to provide up-to-date information to all our customers. On Thursday, October 19th, Octave advised customers of a security incident. Having finalized our investigation, we confirmed that from September 20, oh, that's not bad, September 28, 23 to October 17, 2023, a threat actor gained unauthorized access to files inside Octave customers support system associated with over 134 Octave customers, but less than 1% of Octave customers. Some of their files were hard files that contain session tokens, which can in turn be used for session hijacking attacks. Threat actors was able to use these session tokens to hijack the legitimate Octave sessions of 5 customers, through whom which shared their own responses to the event. Right. So once again, you have session keys, tokens, but there's two things. There is, you as a customer should be sanitizing your data. You shouldn't be giving session tokens to them, embedded passwords to them. Um, if you're doing PII, if they don't need it actually to figure out what's wrong with their product, you need to be trying to figure out how to sanitize all that stuff. You, as the customer, have some culpability and responsibility. You're not treating these privilege, I'm calling them artifacts, session tokens, session keys. I've seen embedded passwords, right? You as a customer working with Octave, you gotta sanitize that stuff. You gotta, if they don't need it, you need to delete those session keys, right? Because you can take those session keys if those sessions are still live, which most time people keep the TTL time to live up to 24 hours for those session keys, right? So you need to be sanitized. You need to know what you send into your vendor and if it can hurt you, right? But a lot of people, I've done that when I was younger. Like I said, I work for Oracle. I'm doing our hard files or our binary file. I'm just generating them, sending to Oracle because we got an Oracle problem or something we need to get fixed ASAP, right? But you got to balance that to what data are you sending to your vendor and what data are you responsible for? So as AWS and Azure, so that's shared responsibility, right? Shared security responsibility. You share responsibility to, once again, what you send it to the vendor. But I ain't mad at them. I'm Got more thanks, Doc. All good, all good. So then you'll be once again you'll be responsible for that. So let's keep going. But I thought that was big. The unauthorized access of Okta customer support system leverages the service account stored in the system itself. The service account was granted permission to view and update the customer support cases. During our investigation into the suspicious use of the account, Okta Security identified that an employee had signed in with their personal Google account. That's how you get your ass fired, right? You can't be logging in with your personal Google account on Chrome, right? Personal Google profile on the Chrome browser of their active managed laptop. The username and password of the service account has been saved into the employee's personal Google account. This more likely avenue for exposure of the credentials is compromised to the employee's personal Google account or personal device. So there's like three things in there that's wrong. All right. Number one is the employee should have never signed in with their personal profile on a Chrome on their active managed laptop. Right. So now you co-mingling your personal and your work. I always tell everybody, don't do that. Use your phone if you're answering your personal email or you want to do some stuff. He was lazy. It seemed like for some reason he wanted to put his work password in there so he wouldn't have to log on again. You better keep typing. The username and password of the server account has been saved into the employee's personal Google account. That's most likely, once again, is it seemed like they were using that as a password manager, right? So the company should provide you with a password manager or use Octave or the other one, Beyond Trust, so it could regenerate a new password for you. You should not be doing that in your personal Google account with your company password. And it sounds like, too, that was a privileged password he put in there. So that's the other thing is you definitely don't want to put what's a privileged password? DBA, root, SA, sysadmin. So if those high level, especially if you're doing work on critical systems, yeah, that dude gonna get fired. If I was on the GRC team, I'll be telling Big Boss he got to go because two is, and I'm bad about it. I keep saying I want to give everybody myself grace and everybody else grace, but you got to send a message. I used to tell my boss, she used to shake me up. I'm like, Big Boss, we need to fire one person a year because it'll go through the company and everybody act right. You got to give them some of that get right, act right, right? So we can't fire one person. I'm like, we could get one person a year, man. Everybody acts a little better. Shout out to Casual Economists. What's up, y'all? Yeah, productive money. Kenny, yep, that's what I'm like. Wow, man, we got to do a better job. We got to do a better job. Hey, people, when a company that has the tentacles so far wide, is it complicitary or spread too thin? That's most likely the reason. Um, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. I think they were negligent. Um, Complacency probably in there, but I think they were negligent, and I'm going to show you why I think they're negligent shortly. A lot of times, Rondo, especially those big companies I work for, there's something always on your plate. There's something you got to prioritize, but there's certain assessments we need to be doing, stuff we need to be checking on, especially internally. We should be doing a risk assessment every year, and they got government accounts. So I know NIST 800-53, HIPAA High Trust, IRS Pub 1075. You got to do a risk assessment of all your software every year. So I'm trying to figure out how they were complacent if they have to do these checks every year. So that's one thing I think they were negligent. So I should be DevOps in your account. I would always see, yeah, it's common. It's common. But we about to look at a check where you can easily block that, Kyle. Just super easy to block, and I think it's a standard check. It's a standard check I've done for 6-7 years. So we're gonna get not Okta. Let me check my. Be careful out there, Miss Bailey. Okta's on there too. Okta gonna get everybody hacked. So let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. Failure to identify file downloads in the customer support vendor logs for a period of 14 days. While activity investigation, Okta did not identify suspicious download in our logs. When the user opened and views file attached to a support case, a specific log event ID, and ID is generated tied to the file. If a user instead navigates directly to the file tab in the customer support system, as the threat actor did in this attack, they will instead generate an entirely different log event with a different record ID. Octa's initial investigation focused on access to the support case. Subsequently, we accessed the log link to the cases. On October 13, 2023, this is what we're talking about. Beyond Trust provided Okta security a suspicious IP address attributed to the threat actor. With this indicator, we identified additional file access events associated with the compromised account. I wish they would be a little more specific. So it sounded like what they were logging, if they went to a different tag, they couldn't see the suspicious IP address located to that particular file. All right. And that's when we talk about logging, SIMs. What are you logging? A lot of times I talk to SIM people, and as a GRC, the first question I ask is, what are you logging? How are you logging? And how do you know what to log? Right. Once again, I do federal stuff. So IRS Pub 1075 so you need to log these things. FISMA, DOD, STIG guy tells you what you need to log. A lot of times people be just willy-nilly logging stuff. I'm like, dude, we need to be logging stuff with the suspicious IP address so we can track them down, right? The Fed uses out there 100. Oh yeah, they. What I'm gonna show you this check though, Ty. They might be okay. They might be okay. But we're gonna talk about it quickly shortly. And this is the part my ex-boss was excellent at this, right? When you do an investigation timeline from a hack, it needs to look like a police report like this. My boss was at ex-NSA, and I was really trying to learn. Look at this. This is like a police report. 2309, he used to have the time. He shows the time that was in the law. Password was report suspicious activity. Okta security begins an investigation. Suspect that one password was most likely the victim of the malware. Okta security meets the one password 929.32.1 and attempt to resolve the support case. Beyond Trust, they really the heroes. Shout out to Beyond Trust. Reports suspicious active to active support. And that's why, even though you were in incident response, even though you locked down, you need to be taking calls from your vendor because they're dropping dimes, right? Beyond Trust is like, hey, we know who did it, right? If you don't answer questions, I've seen incident response where they lock down, they don't talk to any of their customers or anything like that, right? Because they're trying to focus on the incident. You need to take those calls because once again, Beyond Trust really found out what was going on. Using the supplied IP address, Okta Security identifies the service account associated with the previously unobserved event. I wish they would actually physically call the event ID out. I'm guessing of what it is, but it would have been nice if they called it. I'm sure if you're one of those customers, you could probably actually get the event. But I think for the general public, they should name the event. Active Securities disabled the service account and terminates the association. So when they snuck in, got the password, they took over a service account to do the hacking, to figure out what's going on, right? So a lot of times you want to take over an account to do what you need to do, right? Because you need to elevate your privileges, right? So once again, I think that was a high privilege the county saved in there, but once again, I'm just guessing. Active Security copy examined all the files identified in customer support system logs that were accessed by the threat actor. 134 or less than 1% of Okta customers have files accessed by the threat actor because most people probably not sending support files. Most of those companies are just probably doing basic stuff, so they probably wouldn't need that enhanced support. The scary thing is it's only 1%, but I bet you that's all their high BIP customers. They're doing unique things. I call them novel things, trying to use their product to the next level, right? And that's why they had those hard files in there with the session tokens in there that the bad guys got. Security investigator where the threat actor attempted to access the customer's instance. Security notifies the fourth active customers targeted by the adversary. So it seems to be cool. Identifies gaps in logs from customer support system, missing the final hours of the threat actor's access. A rerun of query now returns a complete picture. A lot of times as you move through the system, they're logging all your queries and all your activities so they can replay those if you're attacked. right? So if you select some, you select all the records, or you selecting a certain records, they're once again copying all that so they can replay and run them. Because remember, a lot of times people have playbooks. If this happens, run this playbook. If that happens, so they probably got a playbook once again that's monitoring all your activities so they can replay them. Okta security identifies additional files downloaded by the threat actor, once again, that were not previously, because Beyond Trust gave them that little nugget. Revokes Okta session tokens and newly discovered hard files. So yeah, so they probably went through in their session keys in there. They should block people from putting session keys in there. Okta Security identifies Cloudflare as the fifth and final Okta customer. Man, they shouldn't be naming customers in there. Now, Cloudflare is huge too. Okta alerts all the customers, register security contacts. Okta published this security advisor. You probably look at that. I didn't actually look at that. Remediation task, disable the compromised service account, complete. Okta disable the service account in the customer support. When he put his username and password, what was that, a service account? Was that a privileged account? Was that a rogue account? I call a rogue account. I see a lot of developers with stuff in the back end. I'm like, dude, you can't have that. So let's see what my man Cal said. What do you think about Pulse Secure and Cisco AnyConnect? Those are pretty good. Who somebody I would have which well for those are VPN. Got who oh, that was BHI, the energy company. When you VPN, you need to be MFA to make sure you got that double security. Now both of those are big corporate, especially Cisco. They the big dog in there. Post is a little dog, but Cisco they the big homie. So they're always good. Cisco Connect AnyConnect is used by a ton of big companies. The Fed is all over Cisco, right? So let's see. We can't blame Keep It Techie. How are programs like this approved in sensitive environments? There's a list of FISMA, FedRAMP. We about to talk about that, 8317. That's an excellent lead-in question for me. Excellent lead-in question. Now, we can't blame the big homie, Keep It Techie, Carmo Drip. We can't blame. Let's read this remediation, and we're going to see what 8317 is talking about. That's what I asked myself, 8317. That actually it's going to lead in. So let's see what the remediation, right? We said disable blocking the use of Google profiles with Google Chrome complete. Okta's implementing a specific configuration option in Chrome Enterprise that prevents sign-in on Google through their managed Okta managed laptops using personal. They should have been had that in there. That should have been one of the first things they did. That's one thing I'm enhanced monitoring. We talked about that. What are you logging to get that extra ID they were missing that Beyond Trust said you should get? Okta deployed additional detection and monitoring, binding Okta administration session tokens based on the network location. Right. So this guy probably was coming in from the outside and running those type of privileged accounts or system accounts. He wasn't doing it from the corporate network. It sounds like so. Like 317, you need a VPN MFA. Get your VLAN or your subnet pushed down to yours so it makes it looks like on their subnet. Then you can check to make sure from that social session are you actually getting a corporate network IP address, right? So those are the remediation. But let's see what my man here say. Let's reread 8317 real quick. How could programs like this approved and sensitive information with the list of FISMA? So, and I went and checked 8317. Once again, that's an excellent question. These are the STIG check, which is the DoD 8500. A password manager. This is from Google Chrome. This is the check from Google. Let's look at the date. This has been a check since 2017. You see it right there. Google Chrome browser STIG. All right, so let's make sure everybody, let me get 317 away from it. See the STIG, that's what we're looking at. Google Chrome browser, let's make that a little bigger for me, the old people. That's let's make it 175. Let's read it. Enabling saving passwords and using password in Google Chrome. Malicious sites may take advantage of this by using hidden fields to gain access to the stored information. If you're if you enable this setting, users can have Google Chrome memorize passwords and provide them automatically the next time they log in to the site. If you disable this setting, users are not able to save passwords or use already saved passwords. So let's read this. If you disable the setting, you're not able to save passwords or use already saved passwords. If you enable or disable the setting, you cannot change or override the settings in Chrome. If this policy is left not set, this will enable the user to be able to change it. List password manager should not be used to store passwords. This is from 2017. So you got a billion-dollar company with a regular DoD check. They have a ton of federal clients. So I'm sure this is CIS, STIG, NSA checks. This is a pretty common check. I've been setting these checks, I know, since I want to say for a decade. So that's why I said there were negligence. Once again, salute to A317. So let's keep rolling so we can see the settings. So it says a universal method. I'm the box, go to policy, password enable. If you're using a Windows method, you can go to AKM, software policy, Google Chrome. We use group policies, right? Because we're setting it for the group. We're setting it from GRC. We pushing this down and said, these are our corporate requirements. So that's the group policy. This group policy should have been set. I've been having our guys set that. I've been about 5 different companies in 10 years, but I had my guys set that in the GPO. So why did Octave not have that set, especially when they have a federal client? So I'm a little perplexed. Shout out to A317. He asked that question. How are programs like this approved sensitive with less FISMA, FedRAMP? This is a FedRAMP check, I know, and a FISMA check, because that's DOD. And that's from 2017, right? So that's why I say we suck at security. That's a billion-dollar company. This is a basic check. That's been since 2017. So you had what, 5 years to get that right? So to get that right, there it is, the GPO. That's the setting. You set those servers or laptops in that GPO, boom, you in there. So so shout out to my man. Definitely up in there. Happy Monday. Shout out to the coach. We did a little something. Finally. Blame and keep it techie is always a good consideration. We can't blame and keep it techie. Shout out to keep it techie. But so that's where I'm confused, right? Shout out to A317. So that's a DOD 8500. That's a STIG check. Both of those are federal clients, and it's right there. So you need to disable, enabling, saving. Then we wouldn't have had this problem, right? So that's why I said Okta was negligent, right? Basic check. You got they probably got 100 security people over there. But once again, and I always talk about this, they worried about features. They worried about stock price. They try to get some of that $2 billion back with a big B, right? Because when they got hacked, their stock price dropped. But we gotta stay on top of the basics. We talk about that. Shout out to Keep It Techie. Shout out to Tech G. Shout out to Struggle Security. We talk about the basics. We talk about letting the basics. This is the basics. And sometimes I think companies try to get too cute. They're not doing the basics. So every year, I would work with the different teams to make sure these settings were set. Then the cool thing is you get Nexus out, QualSys out. There's a lot of scanners. You don't have to manually. The scanner is going to tell you which one of these failed. Then you should be able to go through and say, oh, we don't have our GPO on our Chrome happening. We need to set that. Maybe there's something in there. Well, they said they're setting. A lot of times some products were using a password. So how do you get around it, right? What's the mitigating control? But this is a basic password. And I'm gonna scroll up to they show when that check first was in there. That's 2017. Google browser STIG checks, right? So that's why I always do the STIG. So I know a lot of people don't like STIGs. STIGs are hard, but STIG keeps you out of the news. That's why I do the STIG. So let's see what my man Calvin got to say on there. Turn off good password. Same is bad, but can disable external password like Big Warden. Oh, facts. Let's see. How can I learn these DoD and pubs? I think we're gonna chat about that. We're gonna definitely chat about that. I have a few. I probably got 5 videos with that, Cal. I'll drop them. I'll talk about them a little bit, and we can actually go through. I actually walk through. As part of Blue Team, we talk about hardening. This is part of hardening your whole infrastructure. Talking about the browser, we talking about the Cisco routers. I think I'm gonna do a joint presentation with my man Network Bruh. Me and Keep It Techie probably do a Linux harness. So Cal, I'm gonna reach out to some people in specialties and kind of put those two together, right? And talk about hardening those infrastructure. Shout out to Keep It Techie Linux, and he's a DBA extraordinaire. So we probably get SQL Server in there and harden that. Windows 2019 show you how to harden that. Two in the cloud. How do you grab a VM from AWS? You just go get the Stig VM and harden that, right? So how can we do the basics so we can understand that, especially as a GRC? So a lot of people say, what does GRC do? These are the requirements I give to the development teams to get in the OUs to make sure all that hardened, right? So I'm doing an audit and an assessment. So give me 1 second. I gotta yell at this senior dog who walked in my office. I'll be right back. But read the setting right there. What's up, Craven? How you doing? I'll be right back. But yeah, so those are some things like we definitely gonna focus on. I need to do a hard video. I'm trying to I've done that. I think I did one on Windows 2019. I did one on Oracle because I love Oracle. I did one on Apache. I think I did one on IIS, Kyle. But we can definitely get in there and talk about that. Also, there's the same problem you asked with password. Um, that's a good question. I think the browser just having it on the browser, Calvin. I think if you do a local password, shout out to Simply Cyber. Dr. Gerald was talking about that today. A lot of times, companies have their own password manager that they do a risk assessment on it. They agree this is the company password, right? Some of it's, inside the prim where you can generate your password. I think we need to do a risk assessment on those, Calvin, and figure out which one's best. Like I said, a lot of the companies usually pick one, especially for their privileged passwords, because a lot of times they want those to rotate like every 24 hours now, every 10 days. So I think it just depends on, once again, the corporate thing. Well, if they fail security stock, what's up? Facts, man. Facts. Facts. What's up, Operation Takeover? Glad you could join me. So there, that once again, that's why I think they were negligent. Once again, let's scroll down to that GPO setting. That's what I try to do, and we definitely gonna talk about that in the future. And two, I need to get a little bit better at Windows. Once again, my thing is I'm more of a Linux guy. The cool thing is GRC at my level. I work with the system admin guys. The oh yeah, CyberArk's on a different level because CyberArk you can get the PKI security keys. I had that at another job, Justin, where you get the actual X509 token with the split password. So they generate a code and you generate a pattern and you got to put it in. So it's like two codes, like you do a nuclear. CyberArk's the truth. DOD was using that for a minute. I don't want to talk too much over here, but yeah, CyberArk is definitely used in part of that game. I love when you actually get the X509 cert because then when you put your code in there, it puts your signing shirt up there, and you actually can sign a contract, non-repudiation, meaning it cannot be revoked. So that's definitely on a different level. Shout out to Justin. He's dropping out corporate secrets in there, but no, definitely, I've definitely played in that game a little bit. And I think Justin brought up an excellent issue, and those are some of the things I want to touch on my channel is what does a big company use and what's a small company use. A lot of times when you go to a big companies and then you see them on Indeed, so they ask you, They don't want you to be expert. Most people don't know who CyberArk is, right? And how you use it, right? So a lot of big companies, have you used Archer? Have you used Beyond Trust? A lot of those I've used before. So I think we need to start talking about that, especially when you go to those big. You don't have to be an expert. They just really want you to. Do you know what it is, right? Do you know the basics of it? I appreciate. So what that is, so I think just to hit that on the head, and I see that a lot, right? Have you used Archer? Right. So we can talk about the basic of Archer from a GRC tool and the thousands of modules it had. What's the overview of that? And even CyberArk, even Okta. Okta's huge, right? Beyond Trust. A lot of people use Okta with Beyond Trust. So right, so you have that PAM solution, so you log in and it actually prompts the GRC team with a code, or then it gets logged. So it's like it's like a dual control almost. And we can actually dig down individually of what that is. So, but let me hit that. And like I said, I just wanted to, let's hit on a few of those. Once again, a remediation, disable the compromised accounts, blocking. That's the big deal. We seen the GPO from the STIG though, blocking the Google managed password account on the browser, right? Enhanced monitoring. I need to dig into that. I should have got those codes before I came, but what part of monitoring? Because once again, they didn't have it. Beyontrust had that. Okta deployed additional detection and monitoring rules. What are those rules, man? Don't hold out. We know it's additional, but what's the actual event code so we can check to see if we got that event code, right? I need to dig into Beyond Trust to see if they did that. And two is Okta release session code or token bindings based on a network location as a product enhancement to combat threat or session token theft against Octave administrators. Octave administrators are now forced to re-authenticate if we detect a network change, right? So in that token, it's probably going to put the network IP range. So if it's on a different network, you know that, right? And you can flush the token and force them once again to uh, re-authenticate, re-identify, right? Re-identify so you can get a new session token. So those are things inside your company, you need to make sure you're doing or can do, or in the future do it. Right. A lot of sometimes even on those logging in sims, sometimes your sim could start logging exponentially amount of data, which could cause. So you need to figure out how much data you think you can get. And if you can't, get into the budget, get it into your 2024 budget. Right. And that's kind of what you want to see from a GRC perspective. We can't do it this year. We budgeting. We're gonna go to AWS, get that cold storage in there, get that glacier. All right. It's like I think it's a penny a terabyte, but it takes you 12 hours to get those logs back. I don't know if they actually sent them to Alaska or not, but get your glacier going on AWS, right? So you can get that additional logging in there, right? Once again, I'm gonna hang out. Put your questions down there. I just something I wanted to touch on. I saw my man Textual Chatter hit it up, so I was like, let me do it from a GRC perspective and a kind of a little different. Let me show my STIG in there once again. That blue team, that locking down. This is STIG right here, right? We doing this, right? We doing that policy. Get your list pass on because we blocking it. And the crazy thing, I've been doing that check for 10 years. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, dude, I know that stick. Because we were blocking them. Because we were pissing a lot of people off. Because they were like, I was saving my password. I would go, you're incorrect, sir. We're not saving any passwords. So we blocked it. So we got to block. So I know I've been doing that for 10 years. So that's why I said, and sometimes I get a little hyperbolic. They're negligent. No do care. What that was 2017 check. That's a 2017 check. Come on, man. Come on, man. What we doing? Y'all $1 billion company, man. Y'all need a whole new security team, man. I'm gonna pick up my squad. Me and my chat gonna come over there and help y'all. Y'all ain't doing basics. But a lot of times I think we once again every year, shout out to A317, NIST, 853, 171, CMC, high trust. You got to do a risk assessment. So should be doing a nexus scan of our whole network, and these should be popping them up, and we should be fixing these. We as an Octave, right? So why are we not fixing this? Did they thought it was covered? Did they not think it was a big issue? Or they're not doing risk assessment? I don't think they're doing risk assessment. So I don't know. Oh, facts, man. Facts. That's how I was learning to get it. It is, but we always say you got to pick apart an elephant to start eating, cow. It takes, it takes a while, but you can pick it up. Once again, um, I've been in IT for, I want to say 35 years now, and I've been in cybersecurity for 15 years doing various jobs, Kyle. So as I've done different jobs, I just kind of picked this up. Once again, I picked this up. I think I was on a web admin team, and a homie of mine works for AWS. I'm interviewing him. My job was to go through these stigs with him and kind of figure them out from the web admin. And the web admin got the stig Google Chrome checks. So we did Apache Tomcat, Google Chrome, and we were running on AIX Units, I think. So we were running AIX, which is the IBM. What was that? We were in the AIX units check. So a lot of these checks I ran. And two, that's what we're gonna do on our channel. We're gonna take the stig checks and start picking a particular domain, being Windows Server 2019. Shout out to Keep It Techie, that Unix Ubuntu getting hot. Apache Tomcat, IIS if you're on Windows, and just kind of going through those checks and getting comfortable with those checks and putting those checks in OUs right here, then dropping those servers and laptops in those OUs so they can be locked down and secure. And how do we test and how do we move around to validate? Laugh, nah, I ain't saved nothing. So we gotta save them, man. We gotta save them, Miss Baby. We gotta save them. But that's it. I'ma hang out. So I just want to touch, do the rack. We do a root access calls. When I was at DoD, we would go over big companies. Once again, we would step through that to say, okay, are we logging that event? Are we letting people put their passwords in Chrome? That would be a no. Shout out to the Stigs, right? So, shout out to Gabe. I know he's in the cloud. He don't like Stigs, but that's why the Stigs be working. Shout out to once again. I'm gonna start doing collaborations with some people. We're gonna start going over the Stigs and the network, bro. He has his own hardware for Cisco routers. He has actually in his home, so we're gonna actually harden them down in real life and see how that actually works, right? And, once again, lock those down. Locking them down from Active Directory. I got to get a little better in Windows. Once again, I usually work with the SME, but my job is checks like that. Those are the requirements we give the system admin. Those are the requirements we give the DBA, right? To make sure. And once again, on a small system, you could easily have 5,000 checks, right? So you got to get used to hardening these. And two is a lot of times, if you did this, it could break something. So if you can't do it, what's your mitigated control? POEM is we're gonna write it up to see if we can get it fixed. System security plan, document it in there so you can give it to customers so you can show your weaknesses or not, or give them over to the government and they can see if you can get an ATO or not, right? Which is authority to operate. So checks like this goes up to the IRS or HSS for HIPAA. Then they'll look over your controls like, I think people are light on Chrome, so that might slide through as a not big check. Let's see what level that check is real quick. We usually say it's a medium check, right? So it's not high. So medium means if you don't do it, what's your compensating control? Their compensating control probably was Octave and Beyond Trust. So once again, you can see the severity of it. And we get into that and the findings. And once again, how you do a poem and write that up to figure out how you would fix it or accept that risk. Let's see what my man A31 said. This is one of those things that internal audit based. I'm assuming internal pen test wouldn't pick this up. No, external pen test will not pick this up on that unless it went out bad. Do companies that big even do is yeah, they should. The reason why I think they have to do external pen test A317 is they do government contracts. If you're doing NIST or FedRAMP, it's in the documentation that you got to do an external pen test paid by a third party every 3 years. So they have, But once again, the pen test wouldn't pick that up. And two is this 800, you have to do an internal risk assessment every year, right? So they should have been running their Nexus scan. So they might get a fine. A three. The more I think about it, the government might fine them. Uh, the government could fine them. So let me read that again to make sure I got up. It's one of those things. Internal. Yep, it should be an internal audit. That's one of my specialties. That's what I do a lot of. That's what I used to do a lot of when I worked for a large state agency is internal audits. Once again, you should every application, depending on how big your organization is, they probably got 10 apps or 15 apps. I would do an internal audit every month on one internal. The problem is A317, you get a lot of pushback because you start burning a lot of internal resources. And we never had anything happen until it happens, right? So they never have it happens. But I would do once a year. They should do a internal audit. Once again, NIST, if you're selling the federal government, especially DOD, you got to do an internal assessment every year. And a lot of times the reporting agency, IRS, once again, HSS, FISMA for DOD, they ask for your results, right, from your Nexus scan. So that's interesting, 8317. Why did this end on the night shift at the data? Yep, shout out to the data center. I've never done a SOC though. That's one thing I've never worked at a SOC. Now I've gave the SOC requirements. I just never worked at the SOC. Even as an Oracle guy, we would just always VPN in. Um, so I never really had to go into the data center. So a lot of times though, you have to go in the office because the only thing way you could VPN to the data center, you would have to physically be in out, which sucked back then. So if you had to do something simple, you had to drive it out. Now it's a little easier though. So but now shout out to you, man. I hope you have a good night. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna hang out. But yeah, 8317. That once again, their internal audit seems a little weak. Um, which most people internal audit. Once again, we talked about that. Auditing and blue team doesn't get money. New features, new products get money. So if you're always internal auditing and you using a lot of resources, you can't do new features. So that's always the catch 22 on that. But once again, that's why I think they were negligent. Once again, that check is from 2017. Like I said, I know I've done that check for at least 10 years. Once again, I remember doing that. I think I did that while I was at DOD. So once again, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, dude, you didn't have the basic Google Chrome check. Once again, he put that in your GPOs, hook that GPO to a OU, which is organization unit. You put your laptops in that organization unit, then they get all that security hardening, right? So you should go through that GPO every year and see what updates or what's not. And two is you can just get your Nexus scan or your Qualys scan for Stigs or FISMA, and you should be able to hit that Chrome browser, and it should come up with if it was fixed or not, and if it was not, right. That should have been a medium finding. So you would either have to get a mitigating control or do it, right. So once again, that's why I came out with you're negligent, right. So I better be cool. They might send their lawyers after me. I get a cease and desist, right. Uh, I've never got a cease and desist though. I've got some lobbyists from Microsoft getting on me, but I've never got a cease and desist letter. But once again, I'm gonna hang out. You see it. We're gonna talk a little bit too more about SIMs, what we're logging, where I get those requirements from, log analytics from Azure. I'll probably CloudWatch from AWS, flowing over to, I think they got an Elk Stack or Open Stack in AWS for their actual SIM. So probably touch on that because, excuse me, once again, we're blue team, we're defending. We need to have, once again, the GPOs is prevention, right? Detection is once it gets into the logs. Then the other cool is we should have automation to read through the logs that says, hey, this is a TTP or this looks funny, send a security team an email so we can become aware of it, so we're not like them. Beyond Trust won't need to call us up and be like, hey, here's the IP, the rogue IP. You didn't log enough. So, but two, shout out to Octave. They seem pretty transparent. They seem to be making changes. They seem like they said it was only 1% of their customers. So they seem to be doing a lot of good things, a lot of good things. Being on the admin side, I bet they had tickets from security to fix that setting in the queue for a while. Hard to stop production related projects planned for security. No, but that's true and false. A317. You're 100% right, but security needs to push on the chain, which I've talked to a lot of VPs. Every quarter, we at least need a weekend to get these in the system. If not, you're going to end up on the news and you're going to be held negligent. So, A317, I'm always the bad guy. So, we need to get these security teams. It's called technical debt, too. Is the more of these you don't do, the more they build up and the harder they are to do, right? So, somebody from the security team, and I went to our CISO. I'm like, dude, you got to get with the operations VP because and I've said this from the CIO. She's like, we out here butt naked, man. We got to fix this stuff because if a hacker gets on there and start going laterally, aka then we're toast, right? So A317, that's when you got to push back and say, okay, this is a medium. Um, when are we gonna fix them? A medium we should be fixing within 60, 90 days. So where's our window? Right? And we needs to have at least 1 week in a month every quarter to fix technical debt. Stuff that's been out there, like you said, in the queue, they don't have time, they're not getting the security patches. Because if we don't patch and something happens, we're gonna end on the news and we lost $2 billion worth of stock. Right. So that's how you can do that push though, 8317. I've been in those meetings though. So, but yeah, the CISO's got to come in with some force. The cool thing is with so many hacks now, everybody's like, hey, we don't want to end up on the news. So that makes it a little easier, 8317. But that's when you got to push. Once again, I ran it up to the CISO. He went over to the VP of infrastructure and be like, hey, when are these gonna get fixed? If not, I'm running them up to the CIO. The cool thing now is 8317. They got board meetings talking about security now. I was giving notes for the board meeting one time. They're like, oh, what do you mean put the board meeting? I like zero trust, lateral, these things. Like you said, our backlog of vulnerabilities, we're gonna get hacked. It's just a matter of time. Then we're gonna get sued, and we're gonna be negligent. I like to throw them words around 8317. You start saying negligent with the legal staff, and they poke up when you say negligent. I'm like, oh, they've been out here, we haven't fixed them, we're negligent. What's your thoughts on that, legal? So legal chime in. Negligence is never good. That stands for a big lawsuit when you say negligent, A317. But so those are some of the things that you got to figure out, get used to, getting those corporate meetings and kind of talk that language they be talking and shit. Shout out to my man CL. We definitely gonna get him on the show. He definitely gonna be helping when I get my membership. He got big security skills. We used to work together, so we just gonna leave it like that, keep him secret. But yeah, he got big skills, so he definitely gonna be in the membership, helping me teach a little bit, give me some current skills, some current stuff. He know what them stigs about. He know what them schisms about when you got to lock it down. So long story short, CL, Octave didn't do this basic security check up here so Chrome couldn't do passwords. So I said Octave was being negligent because they didn't do this basic STIG check that was from 2017 to block people from saving their passwords to Chrome. But now, shout out to him. Let's see what my man Cal said. How can I get practice on Sims and sticks? Let me think about that. I probably would spin them up in AWS to just go through the checks. I don't want to say too much on CL, but he's down with that. Azure Log Analytics. We got to do that. We get those custom queries going on so you can get them SIM requirements. I had to give him the CL, and he set up the SIM. I ain't gonna say where though. He set up the SIM, so we definitely familiar with those event logs and making that happen. So let's see what my man said. I like that we actually have network challenges now in Chrome when you try to check. Yeah, facts. So I'm trying to figure out why Octave, $1 billion company, don't have any of that going on. See, I'm confused. Let's see. Do you think nation state actors learn crafts that way everyone else does, or do they pull from Top percentage of CS. I think a little of those are both. I think now script kiddies are so good because now you can get ransomware as a service, malware as a service. So I think the top nation states are renting those services to smaller nation states and taking a piece of it. And two is a lot of those PhD students, when we send them back home, they can't make money. So I think they get in the mob and nation states to start doing it. So I think you get a little of that both. Shout out to Ben. I appreciate the coach. He taught me everything I know. Nah, man, you had a lot of skills. Shout out to him. He came from where I was at the developer land. That's all facts. Another reason to keep technology once your stuff end of life, you butt naked. Yeah, but what shit, not end of life. We far from end of life. We just it's hard to get stuff patched, man. We just and CL will tell you you be arguing with people sometimes. They don't want to do this. Sometimes you can't because certain sticks could break the whole network. So what are you going to do? What's your mitigated control? What can you upgrade in technical debt so you get to a point where you actually do it A317? And that's where you get the CISO infrastructure, private cloud. If you're working in with large agencies or a Fortune 500 company so big, they got different divisions. So you might have an IT division, and then your compliance might be in a different division, right? So those big companies and big states. So I think just getting those up to date, A317. And that's kind of two is I got about 3 or 4 videos walking through STIGs, walking through CIS, walking through schisms, talking about hardening stuff and walking through that and what is it, working with the IT department because a lot of times is the CL's favorite word is GRC. We really don't do. You end up managing the stuff to make sure it's done. And a lot of times too is those checks we were talking about putting in GPOs. The development team and infrastructure team they have to test that to make sure there's nothing on a break. So they need to have their area where they test it, make sure it's good and salute it, right? I ain't doing that, right? I'm just saying, hey, can we do this check? Y'all got to tell me if we can or not, right? Some of those checks could break apps. Some of those checks could break infrastructure. And two is okay, what do we need to do upgrade? Shout out to A317. What do we need to patch to get up to a certain level so we won't be butt naked out there, right? So let's see. I like the way so yeah, talk about that. So yeah, so and CL done a ton of that work. Oh, salute. Let's see. Troy Smith. Let me get caught up. How do you feel about internships? Oh, is it worth it? I work in tech support as aide to I remember still got mine, but possible internship. Hopefully it's paid, but yeah, you always got to do your internship, Troy Smith, because that really gives you your first experience. And two is when you're in an internship, they're supposed to be training you. They're supposed to show you different stuff to figure out if you like it. And as an intern, it's really hard to mess up, right? People spoon feeding you and giving you your stuff to grow. But now internships, paid internships, because I'm old, that's the way to go, Troy. But yeah, if you could get an internship, that's definitely the way to go. Even if it's just for a summer, 3 months, because a lot of times internships, they're interviewing you, and if you like you, my first internship, I got a job offer from the company I had the internship. The two is while you're internships, you're gonna be working with different divisions, so you could end up working for a different division choice. But no, that's definitely the way to go if you can get one. Let's see. So much trying to find my niche, but wrestling with being smart enough. Oh man, that's a little of both, man. Sometimes you just fall into a niche, man. To be honest. Once again, I was at DoD doing some web admin, some Java programming, and I'm gonna interview this guy. He came from it's called DISA. It's one of the top DoD when they had their private data center. He came to DoD finance because that's where I was at. It taught everybody cybersecurity. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time and just started doing security. It wasn't hot. Didn't nobody really know about it. It was like China's whooping up on us, man. We got to get better. So it wasn't like I had this perfect niche and I followed it to a certain. I just kind of fell into it, man. And sometimes, and Keep It Techie talked about, how he fell into his job a lot of times is so. It just happens sometimes, Ty. I appreciate it. Please like, slide, let's grow, my man. I appreciate that. Let's see what A137. I'm glad I'm on the engineering side first before security, definitely, but not I did I be crashing our servers. But oh yeah, facts. And that's one, and that's that's a hidden gem right there. I think a lot of people aren't hip to is um, a lot of people go into cybersecurity, which is cool. But for me, I started off as a programmer, engineer, web admin. So now you know what it's like to be on the other side, A137. So you know, hey, engineering, let's work together. Where are we going to test this stuff? How are we going to do a performance test to make sure we had all this encryption? Did we slow down the network? So stuff like that, A317, that's going to help you. And two is you can always do cybersecurity and engineering, right? I was working as CL knows. I know one of the top, and I'm interviewing Linux admins. His security so tight, a lot of stuff. He be telling me stuff on the security stuff, and he just been doing STIG so long. So when you have that trait, A317, that's never going to hurt you. And two is you can start helping cybersecurity in engineering once you get comfortable. You know the checks before the GRC people. It's very rare, but I know a couple guys been doing security a long time. They'd be like, "Oh, I know what to do." I learned even. Tammy, shout out to Tammy. For us Vintage folks, change career, what to do, what to do. I just think you need to what works in your advantage. And if you want to go to my about page, professorbblackops at gmail.com. Software I got, we can put it on private and we can just actually go back and forth. I was talking to a young man. He had health care skills, so we trying to talk about HIPAA. Another young guy, he had auditing, so we talked about IT auditing, talked about NIST, so he can get into the GRC side because he's got the auditing. He's just not the security part of auditing. So if you want to, I could definitely you can definitely reach out to me if you want to have a quick conversation. We can definitely do that. I'm vintage. I'll be 56 this year. I was like, oh my god, So I'm in that vintage world, so we can definitely chop it up and talk about it. I don't have a problem. Once again, professionalblackops at gmail.com. You can go to my YouTube page and about my emails in there. Just click "You're Not a Robot." It should pop up. If you want to chat, we can definitely make that happen. I'll give you 2 cents. Then two is I can send you to a couple other people. I want you to get get a rail rounded. This domain is so big too, so I can send you to a couple other people that give you a little conversation. How does data operations work? Facts, all of that, man. And two is shout out to CL. He's young and upcoming. That's how you become up that ranks to GRC. That's how you become an ISO. That's how you become a CISO. That's how I become a CIO. All those skills stack on top of each other. And two is you start talking budgets and monies and GRC and poems and mitigation controls, SSPs, RARs. So all of that kind of rolls up. Yeah, tell me, I'll be more than happy to. So, and so yeah, and that's one thing we could touch on. I'm definitely gonna keep touching on my channel. Let's see. I turn down the sock roll to continue as an engineer because you can lose a lot. Oh, facts. Russian security aim for admin prep for cyber. No, that's facts. A lot of times too is depending on the role. A lot of times you have a SOC engineering role because a lot of companies are cheap A317, so a lot of times they actually put those together. They want you to do the engineering role, but then a lot of times the SOC they want you to go through the SIEM. The depending on what part of engineering, I think you were doing Cisco routers or Juniper routers. All those routers are logged to the SIEM, so you got to set them up to log to the SIEM correctly. Then when they log to the SIEM, they want you to go through the SIEM to see if anything looks fishy. So a lot of times they put those together, A317. So that might be your next move if you can put those two together. Hopefully you get a significant raise since you're kind of doing two jobs. But I've seen that a lot, A317, to be honest. Once again, and we're going to talk about that as too, is when you're using those type of routers, any of them, they're going to log to the SIEM. What are you logging? What are you looking for? Like Okta said, is if you don't have the right logging coming from your Cisco, Juniper, I'm trying to think of some more routers. I don't do a lot of but if you don't have the login and you can't figure out what's going on with them, A317. So I think that'll be a killer combined skill for you to have. For that, congratulations, man. Happy birthday. 30 43. You got time, man. I feel like 43 was a couple years ago. It goes by quick. That's the only weird thing is. And the cool thing I tell and I still enjoy at my old age is you got to learn. You got to keep your skill up. Right? there's some things you can kind of milk, but you got to keep your skill up because things are changing. Everybody's getting into the cloud. Everybody's trying to master cloud, and you're talking about terraforming, building cloud agnostics type stuff. You start talking about Kubernetes and Docker. That's what I'm really trying to get into, right? So I can figure out because I've never secured those. I've been reading about them. If I got them, I'd be comfortable. But I think that's the nut for me. Operations with the security and understand them from a GRC perspective is definitely Kubernetes is red hot, right? So I think Docker, Kubernetes, and pods, and how do you lock those down? And networking is included in both of those. So once again, how do you control your network? How do you block what's coming in? How do you know what's coming out? And two in there, how are you logging that stuff so you can figure out if you got a hacker coming from Kubernetes or Docker, right? So I think that's the next level of security and where you get spanked. Because once again, everybody's going to the cloud, even all or partial, or APIs are in the cloud that you're connecting to. So once again, what is that? What is that security, and what does that look like from a security perspective? So once again, I'm just gonna hang out a little longer. Like I said, I think that's it. Once again, you see the check. I think that's why Okta, once again, is negligent. I've been doing that check for 10 years, a decade at least. All right. So block those passwords in Chrome. So put the light up. Put the light up. So what is that, and how do you make that? Like I said, as $1 billion company, that's one of the basic. And two, from a Nexus scan or a Qualys scan, that should have been popping up. Obviously, they might not have been scanning their browsers, right? Or they didn't have that in the GPO. Maybe they were scanning the GPOs, and the GPOs and weren't showing that up there, right? And CL will tell you we try to go through the GPOs and figure out how we're going to build them to make sure everything's in there, and what we're going to break, what we need to denote in the GPO so we can fix it later, right? To make sure we're up to date, all right? And that's one of the GRC's assess or auditing things you have to keep up with, or you're going to be like Octave, right? Some I believe is so basic. As a medium check, once again, you definitely should have been scanning for it. You see severity up there on that's my right. So you should be making it happen. Shout out to Black Dub, definitely one of the day ones showing. So that's all I got. Once again, I was just saw the Okta. My man Textual Chatter kind of went over it. I had it on there and I saw him go over. So I definitely wanted to hit it again because those are the lessons learned. You have to learn to bring to your company. And two, those are the lessons learned. So you're going to get better by seeing what other people were lacking, what to add to your repertoire skills. Once again, what are you logging? What event IDs are you logging? And obviously, you need to do security checks. Let me show you on the Google Chrome, and we'll call it. So that's the STIG password manager. That didn't do what I wanted to do. Let's see. Oh, I know why I did that. Let's see if I can go browser. I think it'll STIG. Let's do Chrome. It's Chrome in there. See, that shows you the Chrome. Let's do Chrome browser. So Chrome browser, let's make sure you can still see it. There's 2 high checks, 29 medium checks, 2 cat low checks. Let's just see them at high level. Running out of date plugins must be disabled. Plugins must require authorization and must ask for your permission, right? We just don't let people install rogue plugins. We need to be blocking that. They need to go through the security team and ask for them. Incognito, you can't be hiding. Ain't no hiding on the network. We the government. We need to know who you are. Ain't no hiding. Default search provider must be enabled. 3D graphic API. I don't even know what that is. Search provider. So the STIGs, that's why I love them. They give you basic checks. These are, I think it was 32 checks you need to be scanning for and doing it, right? So let's see. I think Gabe is streaming in like hour. You'll see me over there supporting my man. Shout out to Gabe. I probably gonna go get me a pop out on these so I can stay awake. I gotta do a little work. But shout out to him. I'll be there. Appreciate you, casual economists. I always gotta check out my man game. But no, but these are the checks. Once again, we're blue team. These are the hardening checks. We're gonna put all these hardening checks in the GPO to make sure our Chrome browser are locked down. Now, granted, it's not gonna be every check. If they do something novel, it still might be. But these are basic checks. Okta was not doing basic checks. That's why I said they were negligent. Let's see what my man operate. Big bro, what are some good resources to stay up to date with the latest cyber war? I look at Bleeping Computers is one, and TechCrunch are my two I use. A lot of my videos you'll see is from Bleeping. And Bleeping Computer is going to lead you everything, but that's my number one. Gerald Ozier usually goes to CISO Online, SSO Online, because he's a Chief Security Information Officer. I usually do TechCrunch and Bleeping. It's kind of that. My Google on my phone, I look up stuff. So they usually send me some stuff if I like something, and I just forward it to myself. So those are the two big ones: TechCrunch and Bleeping Computers. MFA on SSL VPN keep getting looked over, not a week. I know, Don, which is so sad. That's just such a basic pairing. I wouldn't, if you're doing SSL over VPN, then you need that MFA to make sure nobody's cross-site scripting, hijack session, rogue IP from your DHCP, IP spoofing, right? So that's once again is basic cybersecurity is not being done by billion-dollar companies, right? So that's where there's a spot. If you get into cybersecurity, you get your basics down. Shout out to Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. You got to do your basics, man. He always talked about basic footwork, basic up and under, right? We ain't trying to do no 360 windmill dunk yet, right? That's for the cute people, right? But what's the basic things you need to do to make sure your stuff is secure? And for me, basic security checks in the GPO. You put your server, your laptop in the GPO, that's going to get you 80% of the way there, right? The 20%, right? We talking about nation state actors, top guy, but we gonna knock out 80%. If we do the basic STIG, the basic CIS checks, the basic best practices, the basic CIS or schism checks, that's gonna take care of 80% of your stuff, right? Um, so that I think that's what you need to get into, right? So and that's where hardening comes in. That's what we're talking about. How do you harden your infrastructure? The channel, Joe Argo has an email list with news too. Oh, facts. Check out my man. I'm always on it. He be giving me a shout out. I usually listen to him. Joe Argo, Simply Cyber. I listen to him every morning at 8 p.m. He usually gives me a shout out. I'll be in his Discord in the GRC section answering questions. So shout out to him. I might try to get him on my channel and interview him at 317. So now shout out to him. He's a PhD. He actually teaches at the Citadel, and he's a CISO from somebody, and he's usually a keynote speaker at a lot of the bigger conferences. No, see, I definitely want to give him a shout out. But yeah, and when people ask me how to get into GRC, he has a low cost class, and I'm about to do an intermediate class on top of his. I need to reach out to him and say, because I was gonna point people here. So we talked about for my membership, right? We're actually gonna do on-site online where we actually audit like we were just talking about. We're gonna audit Chrome, we're gonna audit MySQL is probably one of the hot. Oh, I take that back. SQL Server, everybody's on Windows. 2019, let's look at Cisco routers. How would you do GPOs? How would you harden them? How would you talk about zero trust, right? CL know all that good stuff. So how would you get in that, right? So that's what we're gonna talk about. And CL will help me get him in there. Let's see. That would be Coco Street. Yeah. I'm always in there shouting him out. I've been like, I think he sees me in his Discord. I'm usually, and he has GRC, red team and blue team in his Discord. So I'm in there usually in there. But yeah, he just give me a little shout out because I was on there when he had probably 10,000 users, 831. He like at 80, man. He up there, but now shout out to the good doc. He always showed me a little love. So fact, we shouldn't be letting iPads in there. We should be blocking iPads. But I know sometimes, and that's a good thing is when executives want to bring their own device, right? How do you do that, right? How do you get iPads because I don't think you can stick an iPad in OU. The thing I've been kind of working on is non-joint devices. I think you can harden them. I don't think it's an iPad though, but if you have a Samsung, that'll be a non-joint device. I think you can actually put GPOs on a Android. I don't know. I don't know, CL. We need to do some research on that. I don't know. Shout out. Apple lately's been getting a little toasty, but Apple's usually pretty good with security. So I, I paused a little bit because when you talk about how do you authenticate between Apple, Unix, and and Active Directory, even going through AWS, how do you make that seamlessly and secure? Right, that's one thing. Is I think that's the future, multi-cloud. And so, how do you secure that? AWS going through AFDS, which is Active Directory in the cloud. Get a token, send that over to AWS, right? Send that over to your iPad and make sure it's locked down. What does that look like? Theoretically, I know what it should look like. I've never hardened that in real life. Yeah, we limited to thin client and make sure it wasn't exposed. Oh, that's cool. That's a good move. Android only has a sandbox, separate launcher. Now things can escape. I don't know. Yeah, but I think with it being Linux, I don't know. I had to in there a lot of times. But yeah, you can put an MDM on there. A lot of people doing MDM. I don't want to name one. See, I don't know which ones I think about. There's a big MDM, so I think you can carve out a corporate VM inside Android, where only corporate stuff in there. I think you can wipe it remotely or track it remotely. 8317. I think that's what a lot of people do. And two is when you put that MDM over there, you really can take over their phone or their device. So I think people are I not think I know people using those MDM devices. They're super popular. A lot of those are like you were talking about. A lot of those are FedRAMP and NIST approved now. So because the government was trying to figure out how to get control of that. So I think that's the way to go with that for both of those. Facts. It's for the rich people too. Shout out to the rich people for the Apple. But nah, that's 100% true of what that looks like and how that's going to play and how that's going to roll. Ooh, man, I am dragging. Mm. So I got a little. Excuse me, I hang out a little longer, see what is there any more questions. But yeah, y'all see it. That's kind of the hardening. That's the checks for Chrome. And once again, I don't know what Okta was doing or who's running it or um, Google data synchronization must be disabled. Safe browsing must be enabled. Default behavior must block web pages for automatically running plugins. Once again, you want the plugins to go through the security team, and you can. I think there's a whitelist you can put in there for which one. Firewall transversal from remote host must be disabled. So I guess you can transverse. Remote connection should never be allowed to bypass the firewall, as there's no way to verify the trusted. So yeah, so once again, a lot of those are good checks, and once again, we're gonna put those in the GPO. Facts. So everybody's gonna, get those in the GPO. GPO is gonna have, that Windows 2019. Um, Too, if you got IIS on it, right, that'll be different GPOs. Usually we have a number of GPOs in there. A lot of times we have the GPO for the particular product Chrome. Then we usually break it into high, medium, and low. Because sometimes one of the settings might break something. You need to figure out what broke and how to broke it. So you need to start taking GPOs on and off and kind of figure out what's happening. So that's kind of how we separate them up sometimes. So, oh, thank you for everything, fam. I truly appreciate you. Will teach to us that want to learn facts, man. Facts. That's why I came. Like I said, I'm gonna start teaching a little more formal too, and kind of getting that down. How do you stay focused when there seems when things not to seem to be so good? I'm just kind of lucky. So Ty, I've been in the game so long, and I'm just gonna say I've been blessed. So even when I'm in the brick wall, I just, I'm just in a certain good spot to be in cyber, to be in tech, to be, six figures for, 15 years time. So my situation's a little different. So even though I'm trying to learn AWS, even though it's not going well, right? I still do, my other parts of my life go pretty well. For me, I got my son. I love to see the grandkids. So for me, I'm pretty don't sweat the small stuff, right? So I'm in a real, I say, good part in my life, right? I would love to make that 500,000 like Tim, but overall, I can't complain, man. I'm trying to grind. Like I said, a few other things outside of tech, I'm just trying to get a handle on. So for me, and two is I try to look ahead, look ahead. I knew I was going to get laid off from my consulting company, so I just happened to have something lined up so I could just kind of flow into the other one, Ty. So I try to stay ahead of the game that way, but there's always going to be hard times, dark times, man. You just gotta just keep digging, and a lot of times when you do the right thing in the end, a lot of times it comes out your way. But I always tell people, this is not a movie, man. The good thing, good guy don't win all the time, man. This is real life, man. The hero don't win all the time, man. This ain't no real superhero. I seen some good people get taken out, man. So you got to be careful and stay on your grind. Yeah. So, but yeah. So for me, like I said, shout out to CL. We used to work together, man. I work with good people. Me and him used to have some feisty debates. He kept PBO on his toes, and I learned a lot from him too. Because in this business, I always tell people, especially older people, is I got my degree in 1990, man. Ain't nobody doing JCL COBOL, right? So he was doing some new stuff, and we were debating, and we got feisty. I always tell him I love him, but because we were learning, and I'm from old school. He know Jan be hard, man. You gotta come hard when you talking to Mr. Jan. I'm gonna have him on here, man. You gotta come hard and know your stuff. So I'm from that school of thought. So shout out to Jay, and I'm gonna have him on here, man. So he's a guy I learned from. It's super hard on you, man. But once I worked for him for a while, everything got a lot easier. But it was dark days until I figured him out. But yeah, CL, what I'm talking about. He gonna get you good. So you just got that learning. And two is he made you. He was gonna quiz you and make sure you knew what your stuff was. So I just got ingrained. I always did that, but he just took it to another level. So I'm always did my research. I always got my STIG right here. That's why I'm bringing out the STIG, right? STIG is the requirement. STIG is what we going against, right? So then two is when you take that to log analytics or a GPO, what does that look like? Because as a GRC, and Gerald talked about this a lot of times, is when you talking to people, you got to be able to explain it to people so they understand it. There's a lot of admins don't really understand security checks, right? And a lot of times that security check can break them, right? Two is a lot of times they testing you to see what your security level is because they really don't want to do it, right? So you still got still got to do it. I probably well, he said he would come on. I called him last week actually. We had a good conversation. So shout out to him. So, but yeah, so those are just some of the people I worked with over the years. Some of the people I'm definitely gonna hide on, and we could. I had CL on. We had a good interview. I had B5 on, so I probably start interviewing people so we could just kind of talk about it from different levels and engineering, ISO. How does management see it compared to GRC? Once again, how does engineering see it? Like 8317 talks about, right? How does GRC put a bow on all of that to make sure you compliance with, once again, with the IRS, HSS, High Trust, FERPA, Schisms, IRS Pub 1075, pharmaceuticals, I think it's CFR 21 Part 11, right? So you need to understand a lot of these compliances because once again, those are the requirements you got to give over to engineering to make sure they're doing it right because that's when the auditors come in, that's what they're going to check. They're going to look at these checks to make sure they're in the GPOs and your laptops or servers in the GPO. And they're using this hardening, and that's how you won't be like Okta, get everything hacked. So once again, I think I'm out, man. I hope everybody has a nice Monday. Check out my man, Struggle Security. I think Casual said he's coming on at 7. So definitely go check my man out. I'll definitely be over there. Like I said, I'm always working a little bit. Stocks are let's see. Big money stocks or BTC. I don't know, man. I have to think about that. You know what I'm gonna say? I don't talk a lot about real estate. I'm trying to get an apartment building, but I ain't gonna talk about that too much. I want an apartment building, but we'll talk about that later on another stream. Everybody have a great Monday. Let's keep grinding. Go check my man Struggle Security out at 7. You'll see me over there, or just Google him. I'm sure it's gonna come up and show what time he's on. Once again, shout out to Brother Michael. Shout out to us. And two is we definitely gonna dig in more, start doing more root access causes, and that's gonna lead us into sticks, schisms, and hardening. And two is I'm gonna start doing more hardening videos. And two is we're gonna go through the NIST publications, and they talk about different devices and how they're going to harden and what you should do in those type of setups. So we're going to dig in a little of that. Once again, I'm a NIST guy, a federal compliance guy. SME IRS Club 1075 is probably my SME. Once again, Professor Black Ops, come check me out. ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com. If you have any questions, I'm out. Everybody have a great Monday. Let's keep it going. I thought it was a short week for me, but I don't get Veterans Day off like I used to. Shout out to CL. I don't get all those good holidays out when I work for a government client. I'm out once again. Professor Black Ops, hit me up if you